Is it time to panic on Antonio Gibson?
Antonio.
What's the panic meter? How are we feeling in Dynasty football after the arrival of Brian Robinson through the NFL draft? We're going to discuss it. Badake's going to give his take. I'm going to give my take. Can I say this? Let this video play out, okay? Because I think there's going to be a lot of conversations, all right? So let this play out. Let us get to our endpoints. But in 2021, Antonio Gibson finished as an RB10. Had over 1,000 yards on the ground, 7 touchdowns. Had 42 receptions in the air and 3 touchdowns. Now, we have to decide, number one, what our panic meter is at, and number two, if we're going to buy or sell Antonio Gibson. So, Badake, where do you stand on this? How are you feeling?
Yeah, so straight off the back, I'll give you my panic meter. My panic meter is about a 6.57. I am definitely panicking on Antonio Gibson. And if I'm buying or selling, I am definitely selling Antonio, or trying to sell Antonio Gibson at all costs, okay? Before this season, I was a guy that was advocating for Antonio Gibson. I think we both were. I thought he had a top 8 potential. I had him once at my top 8 running back coming into the season. And then he finished his RB10, which is, I think, is pretty fair. So before the trade, and then after all that happened, I was like, you know what? I brought him down a little bit. He was like my RB 14, 15. And then the trade happened. Now he really fell. He's my RB 21. That sounds crazy. But yes, it's a big jump. But let me tell you why. Okay, let's go on a journey. Once again, Antonio Gibson had a great season. Finished RB10, over 1,000 yards. We said that last time. And then the offseason happens. We were all saying, man, if only J.D. McKissic was no longer there. If only Antonio Gibson, who was a wide receiver in college, can be the 1-2 punch and a pass-catching back all at once. J.D. McKissic signs with the Buffalo Bills. We all rejoiced as Antonio Gibson owners. And then JD goes, I have unfinished business, comes back to the Washington Commanders. And now Antonio Gibson owners are dead again. Cool. You get your mind through it. You have a good process. The NFL draft happens. Surely they don't take a running back. Maybe if they do take a running back, maybe it's another pass-catching back. It's anything crazy. Not a bigger back. But they get a back, Brian Robinson, in the 3rd round from Alabama, which, to be fair, he's not a bad running back. He's a solid, good running back that can handle the workload. Get dead and signed ×2 for Antonio Gibson owners. And I think that it was like the stab. They literally stabbed you and they went like this, you know? And that's how I feel, because I'm an Antonio Gibson owner. I have him in one league and I don't know what to do with him. But what I see moving forward is not good. Okay, so my projections for next year, this is the workload I see. Okay, 45% to Gibson, 40 to Robinson, and 15 to J.D. McKissic, because they're saying Ron Rivera. There's already reports in that I see them as a 1-2 punch. What does that mean? Maybe Antonio Gibson first down, Brian Robinson second down, J.D. McKissic was already getting all third down work. Okay, so there has to be some. We have to take that into consideration. I see maybe 5 to 8 targets going to Brian Robinson, maybe even more on a good day. But I think that's what he will average every.
In a game?
Yeah.
5 to 8 targets or touches.
5 to 8 touches. Excuse me.
I was like, holy shit, my guy's gonna set records.
Oh my gosh, imagine 5 to 8 touches a game. I would say like minimum 5, on a good day 8. Okay, that's what I'm saying. And once again, what do we see? The year before, coming into 2021, Ron Rivera was hyping up Gibson. He was going to be a CMC. He was going to have a CMC role. We all got excited. He's going to be a pass catching back. What happened? What was CMC? He was getting the whole workload. He was a pass catching back and taking the 1-2 punch. You know, and we all had hope because Antonio Gibson was the wide receiver and he could play that. He just needed to continue to improve in his run ability, which he does, and he did. I mean, he's good. He finished top 10. I think that's good for a guy that didn't play running back. But for me, I need to get him off my team. I don't need all these question marks. He's still young, 23, 24 years old. But by the time we really figure out what the hell's going on with Gibson, it's going to be too late, in my opinion. It's okay. I can't see anything else moving forward. So this is why I am panicking and I am selling Antonio Gibson.
Okay, so if we're talking about a panic meter, I'm at about a 4.5. So yeah, I definitely think expectations should change, but I'm not freaking out. And if we're talking about buying or selling, well, he went from my RB9 to my RB14 in my rankings. So he's my RB14 right now. And according to Keep Trade Cut and other crowdsourcing, most people have him as the RB18 in their rankings. So that would mean I'm pretty easily a buy at this point.
Right.
And I actually feel like I hope, Badake, at the end of this to relieve you of your worries. But it's going to depend on if you view him the same way. Firstly, you talked about the stabbing of the knife that Washington just did with drafting Brian Robinson. They've been stabbing you with a knife as an Antonio Gibson owner for 2 years.
That's so
the reality is, if your expectations of Antonio Gibson was for him to be CMC still this offseason, then I think, and I'm not saying you, I'm just saying everyone in general, then I think you probably missed the point by a long shot, okay? We have seen time and time again that it's probably not going to happen for Antonio Gibson to be a workhorse running back. So my expectations weren't that he was ever going to be CMC. Let's talk about J.D. McKissic. When that happened, I remember on the live stream, Badake, what did I say? We were on a live stream the day it happened. I told everyone, this is not the end. Washington will add to the running back room. Surely enough, then they re-signed J.D. McKissic. They draft Brian Robinson. Now, I can tell you why he was so damn good last year, but I already told you about that in a previous video, okay? Right. And as a rookie, over 1,000 yards. In his second year, 1,300 all-purpose yards. He was super efficient. 5th in evaded tackles, 6th in rushing yards, 8th in breakaway runs. I could go through all that. He's definitely a very effective running back. Second thing I'll say is, and I'll just mention this again because I want to get to some really good points.
Right.
Carson Wentz is the best quarterback that he's ever played with. It's very true. Dwayne Haskins, Alex Smith, Kyle Allen, and Taylor Heineke. All right. In 2021, Taylor Heineke was 23rd in total QBR. Washington, 23rd in points per game. Carson Wentz was 9th in QBR. The Colts were 9th in points per game. Yes, JT had a point to play there, but this is the best quarterback that anyone on Washington has played with in this era, okay? Let's talk about the reasons that I'm really not too worried, okay? And I think really if I had to sum it in one sentence, it's my expectations were never that he would be a top 5 player, okay? Maybe as a rookie, I thought that there was that upside, but it became very clear to me that Antonio Gibson does not have top 5 upside. So my expectations have not been completely shattered. Right. Let's talk about this. All right. Yes, Brian Robinson is here, but this is the way of the NFL. If you're expecting the running backs that you currently have in your team to continually have a secure workload, that will change. Why? Let's look at the free agency market this offseason. It was so affordable to re-sign running backs. Running backs are not demanding a lot of money in the trade in free agency, and a lot of teams are lowering their value on running backs in general. So let's talk about it right now. The NFL is changing. Running backs, your expectations of what a running back can bring your team should also change. Let's look at the teams right now, just right now, and the transition is happening before our eyes, that already have split backfields, okay? Atlanta, Buffalo, Cleveland, Dallas, Denver, Houston, Green Bay, the Rams, I would personally say Kansas City, the Eagles, Miami, 49ers, Patriots, Seattle, and Tampa Bay, okay? So these are already the teams that have a split backfield. These are already teams with more than one running back in the rotation. We've heard Washington's plans for Brian Robinson, so he 100% will be a part of the game plan. I am not saying that he won't, but I have a couple reasons to hopefully calm the nerves, okay?
Okay.
Number one, if we realize that the NFL is changing, and that means that the value of a running back is going to change, what should our response be? It should be to lower your expectations and change them completely. All right? McKissic will still work. Brian Robinson will still work.
Right.
But Badake, let me ask you this. Let me ask you, after all of that, where do you think Antonio Gibson can finish this year with Brian Robinson? Do you think he's top 12? Is he top 15? Is he top 20? Is he top 24? Where do you think?
I think to play it safe, I think he can be like 24. I see him 18, 19.
Let's say worst case he's top 24, okay? What if I told you, and this is the big point here, okay? What if I told you the difference in points per game last year, okay, from running back 12 to running back 20 was 1.6 points per game. Okay. What if I told you that the difference between RB15 and RB24 was 2.6 points per game? So, in my opinion, I think we are potentially overreacting to what the real difference is between RB12 and RB24 in fantasy football. And that has a lot to do with the NFL changing. Running backs don't get the workloads that they used to. And the ones who do are few and far in between, like Jonathan Taylors of the world, those kind of players. But RB12 and RB24 are not that different, unfortunately, in scoring. And they're not that different as far as what they bring to you as a fantasy owner. And the last thing I'll say, Badake, is you and I both agreed before the NFL draft when we did this video that the only running back in this class more talented than Antonio Gibson was Breece Hall. Do we still feel that way? Because I remember we both, when we were evaluating Brian Robinson, we said, he's a good running back. He could be part of a rotation. But Brian Robinson, probably not a player that's going to end up being a workhorse running back in the NFL. He's going to be a good rotational player. But I guess that's all I have to say. I feel like really the biggest issue right now with people freaking out about Antonio Gibson is maybe, I'll just say maybe, overreacting to what the difference between RB12 and RB24 really is. Right. Because it's not that significant. You're not going to lose a championship because you have the RB24 versus the RB12. Like that's not going to happen. It's definitely, obviously you would want more points, but there's not this huge difference in that tier of running back. So for me, I still feel comfortable with Antonio Gibson. And I think the offense is going to be better. I think they have a really weak conference. And I know Brian Robinson's going to play a part, but I wonder if really Brian Robinson will be able to beat out Antonio Gibson as far as who is going to give us the best chance to score on every play. I think that's Gibson. I don't think that's Brian Robinson.
Look, and I agree. There's one thing I would like to say. So one thing you're saying, it was like, the NFL is changing, the committees are happening, I think this is a 3-headed monster instead of a 2-headed monster. I think that's a difference in my opinion. The way I see, like the AJ Dillons and Aaron Rodgers, the Zeke, the Tony Pollards, they aren't affected by a third party. They're just affected by one person, which in turn really changes. That's why this changes my opinion on the Gibson. And the other thing is like, I think I would still, even though the point difference between 24 and 18 or whatever numbers you were saying before, I know it was 1.2 or 2 point something. I think the upside for these other players that maybe are a little bit lower were there, are there. And I think, for example, somebody that I have in my rankings higher right now, which maybe sounds crazy, over Antonio Gibson is Leonard Fournette. And that's a guy, that's because I have him, his upside is so much.
By the way, they just drafted Rachaad White.
Yeah, I
feel like that's just like improving my point. And they have Keyshawn Vaughn.
And I understand, but Keyshawn Vaughn was never part of the rotation. Rachaad White probably will be in the rotation at worst in that scenario. That's like a 60-40. That's like maybe a 70-30, especially for Rachaad White, maybe in the first year. We don't know. Hypothetically,
the difference is Lenny is 27 years old. 100%. Already.
I just feel more confident in what I believe Lenny can bring me into this year and maybe into the year after. And obviously every offense is different. It's the workload and what you believe that person is going to bring to your team. And I think Antonio Gibson is not going to get the workload that I was hoping or I am used to. And I don't think he can bring confident games every single week to like confident wins and points to my team every single week. And it was like that last year already. And now coming in with a third guy, I feel like that definitely hurts him. But I think what you brought was fantastic. And you're right, maybe it's not that big of a difference, but I'm just still very, very worried. And I think I would rather go with the 2-headed monster than the 3-headed monster.
I think it's something that almost everyone in Dynasty is probably overlooking at this point. Mm-hmm. Just like we're all aware that the NFL has changed as far as the way it values 100%. Running backs, but maybe we're not all aware as far as how that impacts dynasty running backs and running backs in fantasy football in general. I mean, if I told someone a week ago, or if I told myself a week ago, hey man, the RB12 and the RB24, they're not all that different in value, I'd be like, you're insane. But if you genuinely look at it, it is not that big of a difference in value. Right. And I just think, I think, you know, with like Leonard Fournette, for example, I mean, yeah, they just drafted someone. What was the reason we loved Leonard Fournette? He got like 8 targets a game. Yeah. Well, they just drafted a pass catching specialist running back. So
I agree.
You know,
one more thing.
Let's talk about
one more thing before we move on. Before we talk about value, is Antonio Gibson still the goal line guy? Like, are we dependent on him on touchdowns still?
It'll be him and Brian Robinson.
Because I feel like, I mean, we saw a lot of that taken away from from Antonio Gibson last year from J.D. McKissic, but now with Brian Robinson, I don't have like his body weight and size. I'm pretty sure he is bigger than Antonio Gibson, but do you expect him to be the bigger bulldozer goal line person, maybe in the 5-yard line guy potentially?
Gibson's not small, 210, 6 foot.
I don't have it in front of me,
so
maybe I'll look it up.
It's not as if Brian Robinson is. Here's the thing. I said before the NFL draft that Brian Robinson, he was in a tier for me, the meh tier. Okay. Now, Brian Robinson is someone I'm very interested in Dynasty still. I definitely am interested in him. But I think, again, with the way the NFL is moving, I don't think that means that Antonio Gibson is now irrelevant. So I think he's going to be valuable. But again, you know, as far as the talent, I don't think he's a better talent than Gibson.
Right.
And if Washington's truly wanting to win games, then I think probably Gibson's going to get more work than Brian Robinson. And I see this move. There's a couple things that I really see this move. The reason being, all right, number one is this team really wants to run the ball when it gets cold. They really do. And also they have a quarterback who was super successful with a strong run game. So they want to run the ball a lot as a team. They want to establish they run. They want this Ron Rivera old school. Yeah. We're going to bully people. And last year, Gibson was not healthy, and they had to rely on Jarrett Patterson. Brian Robinson is a huge upgrade from Jarrett Patterson. And I think it helps our team as a whole, Washington. It helps the team as a whole.
Right.
But, you know, I think Gibson, instead of an RB10 finish, I think RB20 is healthy. Okay. But the difference between Gibson and some other running backs is I actually don't care if he leaves Washington. I don't think his value is worse if he doesn't resign. You know what I mean? Like, I saw like, oh, please resign in Washington, please. I don't care. Go somewhere else. You'll be just as valuable as a talent, as a weapon. So let's talk about what a fair price to pay is. I'm still willing to send a late first in 2022. That's what it would take, apparently, according to most trade calculators.
I agree.
A late first in 2022, I'd be willing to spend that. There's not a running back in this class outside of Breece and Kenneth that I want over Gibson. And I don't think you could get any. You definitely couldn't get those players at the 110 to the 112. And then this might get interesting. Here's some players I prefer Antonio Gibson over. Elijah Mitchell, okay, which I think we're all. If we're worried about Brian Robinson, a third-round running back, then shouldn't we be worried about Terrion Davis-Price, third-round running back? Dalvin Cook, I prefer Gibson over Cook because of the age. I think he's really about to hit a decline. And same with Alvin Kamara. So those are 3 names that if I have those players, I think right now I probably could send them and get picks back with Gibson, like, because people are very worried about Antonio Gibson right now, and understandably so. Again, I think I just have my expectations lower than people.
Yeah, I agree. The same thing with pick compensation. Players that I would rather have, depending on when now, for Allen Robinson, Antonio Gibson. I think of these players: Rashad Bateman, Cam Akers, David Montgomery, and I'll actually take a chance on Elijah Mitchell. Because once again, I feel like it's more of a 2-headed monster than a 3-headed monster over there. So those are the type of players that I am feeling confident in more. You know, and just to kind of quick rebuttal, like I would rather take Dalvin because I think I can get more value if I wanted to flip Dalvin
if you're
later.
a win now team. Yeah, if you're a win now, we're talking about Dalvin Cook, 27 years old.
Yeah, no.
I mean,
I've changed. I need to tell you this, but I've changed my perspective on a lot of these older running backs and older players just based off their contract and how quick I can sell them. But I
think the older players definitely are undervalued. I just think, again, you're really limiting your time
100%
as far as them being effective for your fantasy lineup.
Agreed.
And I think right now, a lot of us are so new in Dynasty that we haven't really seen the drop-offs, Like a lot of us have been in Dynasty when Zeke was drafted. Dalvin's here. Like we haven't been able to see those drop-offs in front of our eyes just yet. So it's something that we talk about, but we haven't really seen it yet as our generation of Dynasty players. Startup value, I think anywhere in the 6th round feels comfortable for me.
Same.
Where do you stand?
That's perfect. He was going late 4th round before. I think 6th round is comfortable.
His ADP should drop. It should drop.
No doubt.
I'll agree there. But yeah, in summary, I just don't have the expectations that maybe some other people do for Gibson, and maybe that's why I'm okay with this move.
It makes sense.
I don't think we were going to see the day Gibson was a top 5 running back.
That sucks, man.
And
there was
I
so
figured
much
that
potential
out after his rookie year, and definitely figured it out halfway through last year. So those people, I think a lot of people who have Gibson, I actually just searched Antonio Gibson in Twitter, and there's a lot of people still defending him. And I think it's because of the words of Ron Rivera, who said, he reminds me of CMC, right?
Yeah.
What is Ron Rivera saying now? Well, it's going to be a split. Like, don't put stock into what Ron Rivera says. We don't know if he's ever going to live up to what he says.
I trusted you. It was like, when Ron Rivera says something, he's going to do it. That's what you told me.
When did I say that?
I'm pretty sure you told me that last year, and I was like, Antonio Gibson.
Absolutely not. I could have told you that from the beginning.
I mean, I don't know if it was you or somebody else, but I remember. I'm pretty sure it was you.
There's been a lot of things that Ron Rivera has said that has not happened, so it wouldn't have been me. Anyway, I think this is a really good conversation, and I think maybe perspectives might change from this video. And maybe you have solidified your point that you want to sell Gibson, that you want to keep him, that you want to trade for him. So comment down below. Let us know where you stand. I think as a talent, I would still take Gibson over anyone not named Breece Hall in this class. So, all right. Comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. Yo, what's good? Thanks for watching. We got a lot more videos.
A lot more.
If you want more videos.
Watch it.
You can also subscribe.
Right now.
If you want to.
You need to.
And lastly, don't forget that you can sign up to support the show and get exclusive content by going to patreon.com/FantasyLandFam.